Thank you for joining me on the Darren Chatter podcast. I'm going to be reading some of my blog posts that I have written so that you can consume this information in an audio format versus reading the blogs if this is more to your liking. I'm going to share with you stories from my past as an athlete, as a coach, as a salesperson, as a business professional, as a VP of sales, everything that I have learned and amassed along the way in my 50 years here on planet Earth. I'm going to hope to share with you in order to help you shorten your learning curve, understand maybe a little different way to look at things, and hopefully learn a few things along the way. So here was the podcast you tuned in for. I hope you enjoy it. Please reach out to me when you can and let me know your thoughts. Thank you. Hey everybody, Darren here. I wanted to make sure that you were aware just how easy it is to make your own podcast. Let me explain a few things about Anchor. Number one, it's free. It is a fantastic app that gives you all the tools you need, and it's 100% free. Number two, there are creation tools in the app that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone like I'm doing, or from your computer if you choose to do it that way. Number three, Anchor distributes your podcast for you, so it will be found on places like Spotify and Apple Podcast and many more. Who knows, you might be the next Joe Rogan. Number four, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And number five, it's a one-stop shop. Everything you need to make in a podcast is in one place. So go to download the free Anchor app in the Google Play Store or the iPhone Store, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Believe me, you won't regret it. Hey everybody, it's Darren again. Welcome to another episode of the Darren Chatter podcast. This one is a reading of blog number 176 entitled, "It's Easy to Run Somebody Else's Life." There is a picture of a bunch of people from the show 90 Day Fiancé as the chosen photo for this blog post. Going to dive into this and explain exactly why that's there. So I have another confession to make. Again, it's mostly my wife's fault, but I'm going to own this one too, just like I did my 600-pound life. I watched 90 Day Fiancé. There, I said it. Whew, I feel better now. All right. So the reason I bring this up is because when I wrote this, I'm sitting here in bed with my wife watching this collective train wreck, and we're laughing about how delusional these people are. Every one of them. And yet, each one of them sits there on the video call that they're doing and pointing fingers at everybody else for being unrealistic, selfish, shallow, or downright stupid for falling for the obvious lies that were so easily seen from the outside looking in. If you've never seen this show, and I don't really recommend that you do, the basic premise is that there are men and women living in the U.S. that are looking to get married to somebody outside the United States. The catch, hence the name, is that they have 90 days on what's called a K-1 visa to get married and move that person to the U.S. And so the insanity ensues. The collection of people that are put together, let's see, how do I put this? Looking for the right phrase. They are susceptible to all kinds of problems while blinded by the prospect of love. It is an interesting blend of insecurities, blind spots, and absolutely unrealistic expectations. And sad to say, but a really accurate cross-section of Americana. There are so many people who don't have the right approach, the right screening process, and or the right expectation in a relationship to have success. In some cases, the failures in this area are driving the problems they are experiencing now in front of millions of people on TV. Ideally, we learn from past mistakes. We come back stronger and better equipped for the next go-round. But it doesn't always work this way, as this show clearly demonstrates. Everything from a Russian dating website, complete culture clashes, grand assumptions, and total lack of transparency pervade this group of seemingly social misfits. The massive appeal of this, in my opinion, is that we see some of ourselves in this group. We have all been there, and we've all made some mistakes that we watch play out every Sunday night during this show. It is cringeworthy to watch this stuff, just like a car accident that you can't drive by without slowing down to look at the carnage. You may have heard the statement, "It's easy to run somebody else's life," before, and I can't think of a better example than this. It is hilarious to sit and watch a woman from Las Vegas who has been scammed by a guy in Nigeria speak up and point fingers at a guy who is also from Las Vegas, and he is being scammed by a woman from Russia who is on multiple dating websites. She is convinced that this couldn't happen to her, but she is so sure that it's happening to somebody else. There's also a 53-year-old woman from my hometown of York, Pennsylvania, who is supposed to get married, maybe, to a 31-year-old guy from Africa whose family expects and demands that he has a child to carry on the family name. Hello? Anyone else see an issue brewing here? Of course you do, but she does not. And to show somehow, let's try that again. And to show just how desperate she is, she went so far to ask her daughter to carry the baby to term for them. Yikes. If there was ever a time in our lives where we needed to look in the mirror and start to change things, it is right now. Before we start looking and pointing fingers and calling names, we need to clean our own house first. All of us have room for improvement in our lives, most likely in several areas, and that is the place to start. If you get your own shit together first, then maybe, just maybe, you have a little room to make suggestions to someone else. This is funny coming from a guy who shares advice from up on stage without knowing anything about the audience on a personal level. So yes, I do see the irony there, believe me. But as the old adage goes, those in glass houses should not throw stones comes to mind for all of this. Nobody is above reproach, doing everything exactly right all the time and living a perfect life. Watching this group video chat with these people literally verbally attacking one another, and sometimes for the same issues that they are in the midst of themselves, is the perfect synopsis of the human condition. We're all trying to do our best, but in some cases are very ill-equipped to do so. So it begs the question, how do you rise above this? Well, that's not easy, and I'm sure there are a myriad of answers for each individual on the planet. That is why it has to start with you looking in the mirror. Only you know what that voice in your head is saying to you all day long. Only you know what your real secrets, habits, and transgressions are. So technically, you're the only one who can change those things. A psychologist can assist in the process, but ultimately, you have to be the one to figure out where to start and then begin working on these issues. It's your only hope, and in some way, really one of your main jobs as a human being. Even if you don't have kids, you are still directly influencing a lot of people throughout your life, and I believe it's incumbent upon you to improve yourself to help improve others. So I did write a couple of bullet point takeaways at the end of this post, and I will share those now as well. So the first takeaway is, as I have sort of led on, this is not my only weird indulgence. I do find this show mildly entertaining. And bullet point number 2 is, judgment of others is a hobby for some and a way of life for other people. We all do it to some degree, so don't point fingers. But because of this, we all should be better human beings than we actually are, but we're not. We don't necessarily learn by judging other people. We just do it to make ourselves feel better about our own messy lives. Another bullet point was, to change the world, you truly have to start by changing yourself first. And this will be a lifelong project, so you better get started today. As always, I wish you luck with your endeavors. So just some additional thoughts on that. As cheesy as the show is, and as easy as it is to sit and watch this train wreck happen week after week and see the ebb and flow of things working out and things falling apart and everybody, falling for into the same types of patterns that clearly they have before, we all do that to some degree. in sports, in relationships, in the business world, whatever, we have a set of experiences that have occurred, and hopefully we're striving to learn from the not only the wins but the losses as well, and change the patterns if we're not getting the results that we want. That's a lot easier said than done. I'm very fortunate. I don't really believe that I've had any truly terribly traumatic things happen in my life that I have, for example, abandonment issues because a parent left at a young age, or I had a death of a family member that deeply impacted me and shaped the way I see the world. I have led a charmed life in that aspect, but I've got my own baggage just like everybody else does. And in effort to try to help people to the best of my ability, I'm constantly asking questions, having conversations, digging in my own basement and trying to clean things out so that I can better share at least some direction for people to go and find some resolution to their own issues. I don't have all the answers. I'm certainly not a clinically trained psychologist or anything like that. Human behavior is certainly a fascinating hobby of mine, but not something that I'm on paper truly qualified to be giving advice for. However, being a coach and a competitive athlete for a long time and in the business world for 30 years, all of those things give me quite a bit of experience on seeing things from multiple perspectives and trying to learn and grow from those. So I hope that other people do the same, but some of it is being cognizant of the fact that you do have to look back and figure out, okay, this relationship went south. Why did that happen? Is there a familiar pattern to previous relationships that did not go well? I certainly had some. I can clearly see that I was not ready to be in a serious relationship any time before age, let's call it 40. Sad to say that, but true. I had 2 serious girlfriends when I was in my 20s, each relationship lasting about 4 to 5 years. I wasn't ready. I did not treat the first girl very well at all. Why she put up with me, I guess, was some of her own baggage that she needs to figure out. I just didn't know what I was doing. I was a bad partner. I certainly disrespected her in many ways, and it's no wonder that relationship did not work out. The next one, I had improved and learned a little and did a better job overall, but I felt like I got taken advantage of in that relationship. So I swung from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. And then after that relationship, I took a hiatus from relationships for about, let's say 12 years, and dated around a lot, did not look to have any serious, stable relationships in terms of having a girlfriend. I got a lot of the companionship that I needed from my circle of friends and would just date people for fun, knowing that it had a very limited timeline ahead of us. I did my best to make that clear. The longer I did that stuff and just dated around for fun, the better I got at being very upfront about that. But I'm only part of the equation. The other person who may say to me, yes, I get it, this will just be for fun, is saying that now, but that doesn't mean that, 3 weeks from now or 3 months from now, they'll be sharing that same sentiment. My feelings didn't change. Sometimes theirs did, and that was the end of the relationship. So when I turned 40, I really started to kind of look at that a little differently. I never wanted to have kids. That was never a huge thing for me. But I definitely I never closed the door on being in a stable long-term relationship or being married. There's been several divorces in my family, so I certainly have seen how things can go south, and I wanted to avoid that. And I know that a large part of my success in a marriage depends on me being a better person and a better partner than I ever was prepared for before age 40. Why it took me so long to mature to that level, I'm not sure. I think probably about 50% of men struggle from that same thing. Unfortunately, we're frat boys for a long time, and for some of us, way longer than we ever should be, for sure. Once I finally got that figured out and started to change, sure enough, the universe, or however you want to look at it, aligned me with somebody that I knew from the first time we spoke was the person that I should be with. There was no doubt after having one dinner with the woman who is now my wife that she was the one that I was waiting for. Luckily for me, I got my shit together in time to not blow that first date that we went on and have her not want to go out again and give me an opportunity to prove that I could be the partner that I am. So again, circling back to the show, I sympathize because I've been there. I understand the struggles that it takes, being in the dating world and getting to know somebody and trying to see past the representative stage when you first start dating somebody, getting to the real them and building a life together. It is unfathomable to me that you're trying to do that with somebody who literally does not live in the same country, who is not part of the same culture, doesn't share the same values and outlook on life and things like that. There's enough things stacked against you in a relationship with somebody who lives down the street from you, let alone someone who is halfway around the world. But some people do it and make it work. The rest of them end up on a reality TV show for us to watch like it's the impending train wreck that it's going to be. So whatever stage of this you're in, I wish you luck. I sympathize because I know it's not easy. If you found somebody that you should be with and is good for you and is the partner that you should build your life around, whatever you do, hang on to them for all you're worth, because it makes you a better person. There is no question. Again, I wish you luck in your endeavors.